Kelley Blue Book is a way of valuing vehicles. It's kind of a
Go
benchmark.
back.
So you can also look at Edmunds.com, but Kelley Blue Book does that as well.
The Kelley Blue Book said it's worth $13,800. He's only asking $7,800. Does that look like a good deal? Yeah, you do have to check its history.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, here's an email.
So what do you think?
Yeah,
Good deal or bad deal?
Scam.
Scam.
It's a scam. It's a common one. The Internet Crime Complaint Center receives numerous complaints related to auto fraud scams. The typical scam includes a consumer finding a vehicle on a legitimate website, which is often below market value. The fraudster claims that they must sell the vehicle quickly because they are relocating for work or military and are in need of the money. The criminal refuses to meet in person, will not allow the inspection of the vehicle, and often attempts to rush the sale. To make the deal appear legitimate, the criminal instructs the victim to wire full or partial payment to a third-party agent and to fax the payment receipt to the seller as proof of payment. The fraudster keeps the money but does not deliver the vehicle.
Lots of things. No vehicle,
So just
no inspection, no title, no vehicle.
No deal. No deal.
It's too good to be true.
It is too good to be
It is
true.
too good to be true. Buying a house, no seeing the car, no title, no money, no deal. So what are options? What's the best one? Paying cash. Again, if you can do that, we strongly recommend it. Again, we've had an apostle saying perhaps a first car, but after you have that first car, try to pay cash for each of your vehicles afterward. Next best is a loan, but you don't have to take the loan that the dealership offers you. You can go to your bank and you can get a loan for a used car. So go to whichever bank gives you the lowest rate. Or leasing. Even though you pay less per month, leasing is not the best option.
Because after you get done paying on the car, you don't own it.
Yeah, so why is leasing so expensive?
You have to give it back.
There's a new language. You actually have to learn a new language. You get addicted to a new car. You get addicted to monthly car payments. I heard someone say, I can't imagine a car without a car payment. And I tell them, I can't imagine a car with a car payment. Mm-hmm. Just because, so you set the habits. You get to choose. You pay the most for depreciation. Newer cars, you drive it off the lot, you lose 30%. Within the first 2, you're losing another 40%. Also, because it's a new car, your insurance costs are the highest. With our 10-year-old cars, our insurance costs were quite low. Also, you have limited flexibility. Remember my story with my Mustang? If I had leased that Mustang, I couldn't put a roll bar on it. My wife wanted to make sure that if I got in a wreck that I walked away from it. So we put a roll bar in the Mustang. I sold it to a lady in California. She got rear-ended at 35 miles an hour by an SUV and walked away from it because of the roll bar. You couldn't do that with a leased vehicle. You have limited flexibility. You can't change the car. You can't change the tires. The other thing, too, is you're responsible for all maintenance beyond the factory warranty. I'm amazed that people will lease a vehicle for 5 years, but their factory warranty only goes for 3 years. So guess what? Those last 2 years, if anything goes wrong, you have to pay for it. And then finally, you've got a limited number of miles in a lease, usually 10,000 miles or 8,000 miles. Guess what? You go over that mileage, it can be up to 20 and 30 cents a mile for mileage there. So realize leases are much more expensive over the long term.
So leasing a car is like renting the car, only you don't own it at the end. You just keep paying on it.
Go ahead.
The pros of buying a new car are you're the first owner, you get the warranty, it's more reliable, it has the latest features, and it smells new. And it's status, I guess. Cons are it's more expensive, you have to pay more taxes, insurance, it depreciates a lot faster, 30 to 40% in the first 2 years. And there's also unknowns like long-term reliability and technologies, you don't know. Okay, pros for buying a used car. They're less expensive, price, insurance, taxes, replacement parts. There's a big selection of used cars. The cons is if you've had multiple owners, that's difficult. If it's had a lot of owners, then it might not be a really good car because people are getting rid of it. unknown reliability, more repairs, less leading edge things on it, less status, doesn't smell new.
So how can you find out what the owners are? If you're going to buy a used car, how can you find that information? Yeah, you actually Carfax and different things like that. So you can actually do that. We actually recommend you do that. We helped our niece get a car
Recently.
last year. So we learned there are certain places similar to Carfax for $1 you can get it, but you buy the program, and if you don't cancel in 7 days, you have to pay $24 a month for it. And I canceled in 8 days, and so I had to pay the extra $25. So what's the most cost-effective way to buy a car? Characteristics. We were building a barn in 2020, and I needed a truck to kind of help me out. So what did I want? I wanted something that single owner. I actually found someone in my ward that had a truck that they were leasing, that they were giving back, finishing the lease. And so what we did is we went and bought it. It only had 10,000 miles. It was a 2-year-old vehicle. I knew it was only one owner. And so he and I made the agreement, and then I went and was able to purchase it from him. But again, what you like is a single owner. We were doing the work with my niece, and we were looking at some of the vehicles. And I was amazed that these vehicles had 4 or 5 different owners, and then they got shipped here to the mainland here, to Hawaii. So be really careful. Ideally, if it's one owner, it's generally not a lemon. Hopefully they have good maintenance records. And one of the things Sister Sudwicks and I do, if you buy something like off lease, we were able to buy a long-term warranty from the dealer for basically $150 over their cost for an extended warranty. So even those warranties are negotiable.
And also, yeah, so when you're buying a car, either a new or a used car, you don't have to pay for the warranty what they ask you to pay. You tell them what you're willing to pay for the warranty.
And then they can either decide to do it or not.
And they don't have to do it. Like one time, the one guy, we were buying a car from this guy, and he's like, I'm not really making much money on this. We're like, well, we're not forcing you to take our money, So it doesn't matter to us if they're not making that much money. That's their problem, not ours.
So good places to shop. We like going online. Lots of different places. Again, things like Edmunds and KBB, Kelley Blue Book, you can actually get the value of a vehicle. So how about financing? Is financing cheap? Notice used car values, you're going to pay 15, 16%. What about new? Again, new cars. So notice the 48th month loan is about 8.5%, and a 60-month new car loan is about 8.25%. Why? Wouldn't you think it would be? Wouldn't you think it would be cheaper to do a shorter term loan? I mean, that's what we learned on mortgages. So what are they trying to do? Trying to encourage you to take a longer loan so you'll pay interest longer.
Well, you know how a lot of times you'll hear on the radio, they'll say, oh, your payment's only going to be this much for this long, and and they don't tell you
all the details.
All the details of it. They just tell
So you know what I would do here? I would take the cheaper loan, which is a 60-month, and I would pay it off before that. So just be wise. So now the question is, how do you determine which car to buy? Lots of questions. It's a lot of introspection. You're going to have to really decide. What's your vision? What do you need it for? What are your goals? What's your budget? Budget has a big deal here. What's your auto need? How many people do you travel with? How much cargo do you carry? All of these questions go into it. And then how far are you going to drive each year? And how important is good gas mileage? We had one daughter bought one car, and she thought it was really fun because it did well in the snow, but then she realized getting 12 miles per gallon during the summer wasn't a good thing.
Then she bought a Prius, and then it was like really small.
So be wise. And then this will lead you to your auto type model. Do you need a sedan? Do you need a truck? Is it because of kids? And then you'll come up with your kind of preferred manufacturer. You know, Ford, found on road dead. You know, all of them have these different things too. And my family we tended to buy Fords. Other families do other things. And then what's your preferred model? And then how reliable is it? You can actually go to Consumer Reports. They can actually tell you how reliable a vehicle is. So do your homework. You can talk to your insurance agents. Different vehicles are more expensive to insure than others. Tell them what kind of a car you're looking at and find out what a rough cost of insurance would be. Again, if you do your homework, you can alleviate a lot of the problems. And then what's the low and high blue book on it? So you can actually go through and start looking. And then what will this lead us to? It'll lead us to the options. What options do you need? What's your estimated fair value? Again, find out what the sailor paid, find the invoice price if new, and make sure it's within your budget. And then financing. Ideally, you want to get your financing before you start looking for vehicles. And hopefully your financing is just for your first vehicle. After that, hopefully you pay cash.
So one time, though, we were buying a car and we were going to pay cash for it. But when we were at the car dealership, they said, well, if you borrow for this car, if you finance it, then you save $500 off the price. So we're like, well, how long do we have to finance it for? And they said, well, you only have to really finance it for 30 days, and then you can go ahead and pay cash for it. So we financed it for 30 days. We didn't pay any interest on it at all, and then we just paid it off in 30 days, and we saved $500 on our car.
So again, be wise. Companies often have incentives. So ask the seller lots of questions. We were looking at a Jeep, not a Patriot, but another one there. And I noticed as I was just looking at the car, we were on our way to a football game. And there was a car there, and I noticed there was a piece of tape on it. It was painter's tape. They had repainted a quarter panel. So I called them up and I said, hey, has this thing ever been in a wreck? Have you repainted anything? And they go, no, we've never repainted anything. And I saw the tape on it, and I know he was lying to me. If he'll lie to me about one thing, he'll lie to me about anything. So make sure.
So we didn't buy that car.
We didn't buy that car. So check the vehicle history. Find out. It's not perfect, but it can tell you how many owners has it had. Has it had. So Carfax reports. Examine the vehicle. I would generally take it to a mechanic. If it's a Honda, I would take it to a Honda mechanic. If it's a Ford, I'd take it to a Ford mechanic. But make the price contingent on passing a inspection by a manufacturer's mechanic. It'll cost you $100 to $200, but it's worth it because you'll know what you're getting. And then negotiate the price. Again, use things like Kelley Blue Book, Edmunds, to get a fair value of the vehicle. And then you can compare it against other vehicles. If it's overpriced, take your research and just tell them why you think it's overpriced. We were helping our niece. She actually bought a Honda Civic. That's what she ended up buying. But they had said, yeah, there was a leak in one of the things, and the dealership said it would cost $400 to fix. And she says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay half on that. So they reduced the price by $200. But try to make it a win-win for both sides. And then once you do that, read the sales contract. Make sure you understand. Make sure it says what you agreed to. And realize make sure the title is signed over to you. No title at the sale means no deal. If you're buying it from someone else who has a car loan at, you'll have to go sign the document at the bank. So you'll actually pay the bank, and then the bank will release the other funds. And then you go to the DMV. Apply for the title, license, and registration. And then we want you to take care of the car. So let's talk a little bit about it. So we've gone through a lot of little basics. Truthfully, today's lesson, we could spend 5 hours talking about. We have all these stories and things like that. There's a lot of other things too here. But we've tried to narrow it down to the things that are most important. But if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a plan for your transportation decision, you can spend up way too much. This can take the place of other things that are more important in your budgets.
So buying a house is probably your first largest expense, but buying a car is probably your second largest
Probably your second.
expense.
So we need to be wise. So put a plan. So what are some ideas? What's your vision? Vision is I have a car that meets my needs. With us, with 7 kids, my wife always had the newer car because if something happened, it's okay. If I'm stuck on the road, it's okay because I can handle it. With her and 7 kids, it wasn't a good thing to use. So generally what would happen is we would keep our cars 10 years or 200,000 miles. At 120,000 miles, her old car became my new car. So
I get lucky.
So we did that. But have a plan. What's your vision? Again, this has saved us a lot of money. Keeping them for 10 years. If you're going to keep a car for 10 years, do you take good care of it? Do you change the oil every 5,000 miles? Do you make sure you have good tires? Yeah, you do. Again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to minimize the effective cost of the vehicle over its effective life. We recommended paying cash. Our strategy was once we hit $750,000 saved, we could start buying new vehicles. And so things like that. So you will need to come up with yours.
And then we have strategies you can use.
You can come up with your own strategies. I know Zach's auto plan is probably, I won't have a car because I'm in Hong Kong. I don't need one. Other people, it'll be different. But at least you can think through the principles. Okay. So I like this. The value of toys and vehicles will not exceed 50% of annual income. That's from Dave Ramsey. So it's just important. Let's talk a little bit about your toy strategy. For most people, this is not going to make any sense. If you're from the US, where toys are a big deal. And so what are toys? Are things like boats and motorcycles and ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, side-by-sides, jet skis, all of these things. A lot of times people will go into debt, significant debt, for toys. And to me, it's just really, you really need to be wise on it. So what happens without a toy plan? You just spend significant amounts of resources on things that are really not necessary for your personal goals.
But maybe having a boat is your personal goal.
Yeah.
And if you've saved the money, then it's okay to buy a boat.
Our first boat we had, my brother put in $750, I put in $750, my dad gave us a motor and we
bought a
skied.
used boat. It was very small. I don't even know how we did it.
So, but we did it. It was a 1975 Caravelle, bright orange. We skied on it for 10 years.
But then we bought a new boat right before we moved from California to Utah. And so we're glad we bought it in California because if we would have moved to Utah on the BYU salary, we wouldn't have been able to afford a boat.
So it's 26 years old.
We still have it. It's a great boat.
We still work. But the point is, you need to have a plan. So what's your vision? A vision is we use toys to bring the family together. And that's what we like too. The purpose is to really bring families together. This was our plan. We started with bikes, and then tents, then camping equipment. Then we eventually had a little pop-up trailer. And then we bought some small ATV for the kids. And then
now we have bigger ones.
Now we have bigger kids. So now our goal is to be the favorite grandpa. Our goal is to be things. And so in fact, the same ATVs that our kids drove when they were 3 and 4.
Now our grandkids drive.
Our grandkids are driving.
It's true. We took good care
But
of
again,
them.
our goal was we would pay cash for all of our toys, but only after we're saving our 20%. So we made sure we're doing it. We made sure we buy good equipment with available parts, because we bought some toys, some Chinese toys that we couldn't get parts for. And so we realized you have to be able to replace it. And we keep all of our toys 20 years. As we go through each of these areas, and it's interesting, every day we're talking about a different area. But let's think through it. Let's come to understand what are the principles. What are the things that are important for us to understand? And then let's follow those principles. And as we have a plan for our transportation purchases, if we have a plan for our toys, toys aren't bad if you do it at the right time. They can be bad if you go into debt. If you go into debt and it's not the right time. But toys, again, our view is we like them because it brings the family together. We do things together.
You got to make memories.
Yeah, you make memories.
All right. As your situation improves, you'll be able to buy more and more new things. But while you just have to be patient and know what your timing is. Make sure that you can that you saved at least $1 million before you buy a new car.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.